Gentlemen, what is going on?
It's happening. Love that new intro.
Yeah, I actually do too. We
actually
had
me fired up. I'm ready to go, baby.
We had a really cool dude on a post-game show, Frankie James, and he even commented, "What a cool intro."
Yeah, he did.
And he was a really cool guest host. We'll have to have Frankie James back on. But ladies and gentlemen, we are Flyer and Ice Pod, brought to you by the Heat Ratio Sports Network. Remember, check out YouTube and subscribe to Heat Ratio Sports. And check us out on Apple Podcast on your drive home. Well, if you're watching this, you're probably not going to re-listen to it, but tell your friends and family. Check us out on Apple Podcast, Spotify. We're everywhere. And I want to let you know that one of the affiliates for our show, NV Streams, they are the best source of watching TV in today's world. No more YouTube TV, no more Hulu Plus. Cut the cord with cable. NV Streams. You got to check them out. Their information is scrolling at the bottom of our screen as I speak. NV Streams, check them out. Mention Flyer and Ice, and they will hook you up with a discount. So, gentlemen, great to see you as always. I believe the last show we had the upcoming stretch of games with the Coyotes, the Penguins, and the Capitals. And now we're on the eve of Toronto tonight, Carolina on Friday. So let's address something that I mentioned. And if I asked a question, you could probably deduce it was on my mind, correct? I asked you, any concern for a letdown against the Coyotes? And Nikki went nuts, no pun intended, about, take the 6 goals guaranteed. You remember the Vegas thing?
Yep.
Yeah. You guys, we won the game 3-0, but it wasn't a 3-0 victory. So what were your thoughts on, we'll even jump, we'll cover 2 birds with 1 stone. Were you surprised at the flat performances against the Coyotes and Penguins, despite the fact we got 3 out of 4 points in those games? But we really should have had an easy 4 points, in my opinion. I'll start with you, Vance. What were your thoughts on the flat performances against the Coyotes and Penguins?
I think they probably took the Coyotes a little lightly. As far as the Penguins, I just think that, it was a game where they were, the game went to overtime and they lost the game. I mean, the way I see it, guys, is, even when this team is not playing well, they're still coming away with points.
Yes.
Which is something that they didn't do, last year. So, the good thing is that some of these performances that are not their best, they're still, leaving these games with points, and that's really important. So it's a long season. You're not going to be at your best every night. Sometimes you're going to be, up for a letdown. You're going to look at some teams, take some teams lightly. Some of the other teams that are better teams you're not going to play as well against. But the Flyers are coming out every game with points, it seems like, and that's really all that matters.
Would you like to build on that, Nick?
Well, yeah, I was at the Arizona game, and I happened to have been sitting in the offensive zone where the Flyers shoot in the first and third period, and Vance is right. I mean, they definitely came out a little flat, and they look like they took them lightly, coupled with the fact that Arizona really would they looked like they were up for that game. You probably didn't see it on TV, but they had not a tribute, but they had a little video on Gostisbehere, which they I'm always against those kinds of things. Maybe unless it's at the end of the game or something like that, but it looked like they were getting pretty pumped up. A few of the things that I've been harping on the last week since that game is there was really no front of the net presence against Arizona until the third period. A lot of these wingers, need to anticipate a little bit better when there's a shot or there's some activity that's going to generate a loose puck in front of the net. You got to anticipate that that's going to happen. You don't react that that's going to happen. And they were not getting to the net in situations where I personally felt like there was a few times in the first and second period that there were loose rebounds or, there was somebody that was possessing the puck that was coming into the slot, looking for somebody in front of the crease and nobody was there, particularly Konechny. He looked like he was just kind of like skating around aimlessly. So that was a big thing for me. And, I think they'll get better at those kinds of things. It's early in the season, but to me, that's going to be really important. We're not one of those teams that's going to be, we don't have players that are Connor McDavid skating through 4 people trying to get into the net. We've got to do it by, good puck support and creating space and moving the puck, in a systematic way. And they're getting better at that. And like Van said, they're still coming out of this with points. So all in all, it was a pretty good stretch in my opinion.
Real fast before I get to you, Nicky Nuts. Adam, yes, this one happened to show your name. We're realizing that a lot of the comments say Facebook user. That is our buddy Adam checking in. So, Adam, I agree with you. I'd love to see this team get on a long-term roll, but they have a tough schedule coming up, so we shall see. Nicky Nuts. This is the part of the show where we need to see the Nicky Nuts come out. How disappointed were you at their performance against a Crosby-less team, a Malkin-less team, a Dublin-less team, and a team that had Letang first game back after being weak from COVID, and they had to scramble to get it to overtime, which was good, of course, as Vance mentioned, but it was just a really bad performance in my opinion.
Well, every time they go against the Pittsburghs, it's going to be a battle. It doesn't matter if there's 7 guys out or we have nobody. We always make it a big-time game. So you can't get held up on the fact that they didn't have this, they didn't have that. They always come up, and we always play tight together throughout the history of the Flyers and the Penguins. As far as Arizona, yeah, there definitely should have been more goals in that game. But, this guy has been playing really, really well. And
Is that Martin Jones?
No, that is Hart. That is Hart.
Listen, both goalies have been playing very well.
They both have been. And the biggest takeaway from those 2 games was when we shoot the puck, we are missing the net. We have to get that puck on the net more because that kills all momentum once that puck starts flying the other way. You got to pick a corner. You can't just shoot the puck to get hit to go towards the goalie. Pick a corner. They always shoot either right at the goalie or they're 10 feet off the net. And I understand that's tough to do when they're skating. And I trust me, I understand it. It's just they're professionals. They should be able to pick a corner at any given time. I mean, look at Connor David. Every time he shoots the puck, it's precise. And I hate to bring out the best player in the league right now, but he does. And he is the best player for a reason. And that reason. Plus, he can skate through anybody.
You get your burgers at Donald's or McDonald's?
I get my burgers at McDonald's.
All right, cool. So, Nicky Nuts, what you did say kind of parallels what Nick was saying. Especially when they get shots from the point, if they had a little traffic in front of the net, that would also make it more difficult for the goalie. So 2 points tied together. All right, so gentlemen, my next question for you. And again, this is not pick on Nicky Nuts Day. It just happens to piggyback on something that you said last week that I believe Vance and I disagreed with. You had mentioned how you thought Braun has been brutal, and I can't disagree more. I think he's been actually beyond solid this year. And when we were all hard on him last year, but we were hard on the whole defensive core last year. I think Ryan Braun has been playing excellent hockey. And this is my question I'm going to pose at you guys. Has the Ellis injury indirectly enhanced Braun's game? Or is it directly enhanced Braun's game? Subconsciously, consciously? I'll start with you, Nicky T.
I'm not sure, if the injury enhances game or has given him any additional motivation, but I hate to bring it 3-1, Nicky, but man, he looks pretty good. I mean, he's playing very, he's not flashy. So maybe that's where, a lot of the fan base might see that, he's, for all intents and purposes is not playing well, but he's playing very fundamentally sound defensively. And he honestly knows when to get into the rush. He's playing a little more physical as well. And I'll be honest with you guys, Nick Seeler looks really, really good. Like, he's against Arizona, the guy stood out to me as making executing plays to the T, not making any mistakes at all in the defensive zone. None. Know when to join a rush, and obviously we see he can be a little bit physical. So that between the two of those guys, we can go on to some of the rest of the defensive core, and especially Sanheim. Back to Nicky Nutz's point about hitting the net or picking a corner. My God, I mean, his shots from the blue line or from defensive position in the offensive zone are like 10, 15 feet wide every time. And those kinds of things, you're not only missing out on an opportunity to score offensively and produce, but those kinds of shots trigger another rush by the other team, whoever they may be playing at the time, very easily. So it's very scary, and he's got to get that under control.
It's funny you mentioned the Sealer thing because, we're not here to necessarily plug other shows, but listen, to me, I have the mindset in the podcasting world that it's not competition. We should all be friendly with each other. And one of the shows that I really enjoy watching outside of our own is Flyers High and Wide. Love Jim, the host. He's really does a fine job, and his co-host Zach does a fine job. So I was watching the show and I made a comment, and then Jim asked me, Dan, I'd like your perspective on our little argument, which I think I missed. I turned it on a little late about Nick Obey-Kubel. I think some of them don't like him and some of them like him, and I gave my opinion how I don't like him at all, and then I added my 2 cents, and I said I also believe that I also believe that when Ellis comes back, Sealer should stay in and Sanheim should sit, and that's the comment I made. So they addressed my question, and one of the guys, I don't want to say the guys, I think it was Evan or Kyle was the third guy, and Vance, you're still there. He is. Our man Vance is back. So Evan and Kyle and those guys, I think it was anyway. The third host of the show laughed at that point. He goes, "I agree with the Brown for NAK, but Sealer for Sanheim," and he started laughing. No, and I'm thinking, dude, are you kidding me? Like, what are you watching? And I'm like, what? And I typed, what the hell is Sanheim offering this team right now? So they didn't address that secondary question, but I'm glad you feel the same way, Nick, because to me, listen, I don't know this guy for his hockey knowledge point of view, but he couldn't be more dead wrong in my opinion.
100%.
So Nick Sealer has, again, not flashy, but he's a solid hockey player. And again, a lot of our teams will strictly go with pedigree and paycheck. They're in a lineup,
right.
And the guys like Sealer and company will sit even if they're playing better hockey. Well, hopefully they'll see that Sealer has earned a spot on this roster on a more permanent basis. So anyway, I got on the soapbox there. All right, let me get to my next question. All right, so we move on from the 2 flat games, and we have the mighty Capitals, who are on a roll. I don't think they had lost a game in their building all year. Ovechkin was on a point streak, and I thought we played a tremendous 2.5 periods of hockey. So, gentlemen, we'll start with you, Nicky Nuts. What were your impressions on the Washington game?
I thought the Flyers came to play that game. I thought they were back and forth. Washington is a great team, though. I mean, I'm impressed with the way they just handle teams. They just completely control what they want. They dictate what they want to play and how they want to play. Versus, I think the Flyers don't dictate how they want to play. I think they adjust and they play according to what they're given as far as space and avenues that they're going to have. But all in all, I thought that was a good test for the Flyers.
It was an important bounce back, and the irony was we all did our little predictions of the 3 games and the points they would get. And as I was talking with Frankie James on our post game, everything like flip flopped. We got the point totals we wanted, but just not in the predicted pattern that we thought. Nick the Scout, build on what Nicky Nuts just mentioned.
Yeah, I'm in agreement. I mean, he touched on a lot of points that I was going to touch on. This is, that game in particular was about executing Vigneault's system, and for about 50 minutes they did it. They're not going to be the most skilled, fastest, even the most physical, even though, we are becoming a little more imposing, but our roster just isn't built like Edmonton. So, we've got to build success upon a hard forecheck, and which they did for a good 50 minutes. Just put pressure on good teams like that and make it difficult for them to break out the puck. In anticipation, like Nick was saying, and puck support, that's how this team's going to win. They're going to move the puck. They're going to anticipate. They're going to have chemistry. And we're going to see them, be in games really up until the end if they continue to execute Vigneault's system the way they have been, especially in the Washington game.
And Vance, this team last year, they might have had a game out of the blue where they had a 2.5 period lead against the Capitals. But once that pressure started, the last 10 minutes, we were on our heels. We all have to admit that. But our goaltending held us in. We had some key block shots. Last year, that game would have went from 2-1 to 5-2 in a heartbeat. So I don't think it was a concern that we were on our heels. I think a team like Washington, they're going to pour it on late in the game when they're trailing. So how did you interpret the last 10 minutes of, quote, being on our heels?
Uh-oh.
I think we're having Vance problems.
Can you hear me now?
We can hear you, but you've got the Kung Fu Theater thing going on right now. Uh-oh.
He's freezing up.
Vance, why don't you sign off and sign back in, and we'll see if that rights the ship a little bit.
Right, I think their Flyers have to start getting more in front of the net. I think they're veering away from that great opportunity to score great goals with JVR. I don't know why they got away from that. They started in the beginning, but to get in front of the net and have deflections is always going to kill goalies in this league. And I think we got away from that a little bit. And I don't know why. I don't know what the reason is, but I think that's what they need to do going forward.
You're right. That's a staple in hockey. You can never go wrong by putting traffic in front of the goalie. You can't crash the net, make the goalie uncomfortable.
Maybe it's they're afraid to get their heads knocked off because the guys are shooting like 10 feet off the net.
Listen,
I don't know.
You just referenced that's a trademark of JVR.
Yeah.
It's got to be done. Now, I was going to ask this to Vance, but I think both of you are quite capable of answering this question. And I left this on the board from my post game show with Frankie James the other night. So I'm going to ask Nicky the Scout, talk to us about sports and the ebb and flow that takes place where you can have uninspired play against Arizona and Pittsburgh and then come out looking like a world beater against Washington. How does that happen in such a short period of time where you can look so bad one night and so great the other night?
It just does. I mean, you see it everywhere in every sport at every level. I remember just going to youth hockey games and just saying, hearing the kids say, we're going to kill these guys, whatever. And then it's in their head. And, you've got all this confidence. Meanwhile, on the other end, of the locker room or the other side of the locker room, you've got these kids that are all pumped up because it's a big game for them. It's a big team. They've got all these names on the roster. I don't know, Dan. And I wish, I wish in back 20 years ago, I would have gone to school and taken some psychology courses on that specific topic because you just forget about it.
Sports psychology 101.
Sports psychology and especially as it relates to that aspect of sports in general. I don't know, Dan. You should come out against a team like Arizona and really just whip them. You really should, but they were flat. And, I guess it's hard at the end of the day to just get up for every single game at the highest possible level that you can.
And you had
but-
two look ahead games in theory.
Yeah.
So that could have been it too. And like Vance and you alluded to, all three of you alluded to, is they still got the victory, which is the ultimate
Right.
important thing. And I guess Nicky Nuts, you would agree with that. It's just the wonderment of sports. You just have
Yeah,
no
I mean,
idea.
you'll see it not in no more. You'll see it more in college. Like you'll see that in football all the time. Guys get up for games and guys don't get up for games. It's just the way sports is, and that's why we all tune in every game to watch it, because in any given day you can show up and be a force to be reckoned with, and any given day you can lay a turd. So that's why we watch sports. That's why people bet on sports, because it's the rush of not knowing what the outcome is, but the anticipation of what you see is one of the greatest feelings in the world.
And that's why, again, I'm not tooting my own horn. I just had that gut feeling that they were going to have a letdown game against the Coyotes. I didn't think they were going to lose, but when you guys were giving me Vegas point totals, there was one of our viewers, I forgot his name. It was a Jim. I was like, okay. If you guys are feeling it, I hope you're right. But I had a feeling that was going to happen. But
the fan base does it all the same as the players do. It's just a trickle down effect.
Yeah, we when you watch enough sports like we do, you know that what I call the ebb and flow effect. Right. All right, my next question. The new guys, and again, this goes back to Chuck Fletcher. The new guys continue to impress. Broussard had a beautiful goal against the Capitals. To me, it was Rasmus Ristolainen's breakout game, in my opinion, his best game by far. And of course, Martin Jones was terrific in net. Are you guys still like in all of how well all the new guys are contributing? Nicky T?
Yeah. I mean, again, we've talked about this from the moment that these acquisitions were made. I think the four of us all kind of felt like the moves were what this team needed to move forward and get to the next level, and also help Carter Hart get back on track. But I would be amiss to not bring up Martin Jones, because I'm just not getting the fan base hatred on him. It's like that. I feel like that AMAC, it's just from the moment we signed him, it was like, this guy stinks. And what are we doing? And, if you're a stat scout, which I call these guys, these stat scouts, where they're Google the numbers, the players, the goalie, whoever it is, and look up their stats, or, in this case, the save percentage and goals against, and immediately say, okay, this guy stinks. Why are we signing him? He's a good goalie. He's a very good goalie. And he's been in a bad situation for 2 years, maybe 3 in San Jose. But I remember watching him in, around 215, 216 playing in a world championship game for Team Canada. And he was phenomenal. Prior to that, or right after that, a good stretch of production in San Jose until, that team kind of just falling apart. But this fan base needs to get behind Martin Jones, because we're going to need him. You need a good backup goalie, whether it's to give your goalie a rest or to pick him up if he's, not playing well, or if he's hurt or injured. But to me, I've been on the Martin Jones bandwagon since we signed him. And I hope the rest of this city starts to realize what we've got in this guy, because he's pretty special, and we're starting to see it. And I think he's starting to win some people over.
No, I agree with you. He had a couple off years, but I remember the Martin Jones that really carried that team. And he's very positionally sound. He's not flashy, but he's positionally sound. And I guess the fan base, it's a catch-22. I think they wanted the Holpies of the world, but a guy like that wants more playing time. And you can't have a guy that threatens Carter Hart if the organization wants to, make him the number one, which they clearly do. So you got to get the ideal complementary piece that doesn't have the big ego anymore. And if anything, Martin Jones might use this as a resume builder for the future. I'm back, ladies and gentlemen. Sign me. You know what I'm saying? So, yeah, I agree with everything you said about Martin Jones. Now, here's something that, if anyone trumpeted grit and a tough team mentality, it's been me. And I couldn't have been more pleased at the sequence at the end of the second period against the Capitals where Wilson kind of hit Risto as the horn went off. It was an unnecessary hit. And
Shocking.
Ristolainen turned around and gave it to him. And McEwen quickly got in the fray. And you notice how Wilson didn't keep it up, you know?
Yep.
We had tough guys on the ice that weren't going to take any garbage. Now, I would have liked to have seen a little revenge for, again, Gardner Hathaway. I think it was given to Farabee again in the face on the ice. I would have liked to have seen that come back to haunt him. But again, it's time and place, and the game was too tight. But that sequence at the end of the second period showed that this team will back each other and stand up for themselves. And I think even Sealer was on the ice. They've got guys that will drop the mitts if they have to, and also can be solid contributors. And on that note, I want you both to not only address what I just this topic, but how good has McEwen been defensively responsible as a fourth line winger? I mean, I have not seen that guy make a bad pass or turnover since he's been on this team. Nicky, nuts.
Yeah, I agree with you. He's been a surprisingly dependable. He's been dependable in the role that he's playing. And the fact that we have really two real good lines and the other two lines haven't hurt us. That's what I'm saying. And usually the fourth line is just there to clang and blang and just put minutes down on other lines. So yeah, I'm surprisingly happy with his performance, and I think Bassard is one of the unsung signings that we've had. I think he is a absolute joy to watch and see him come out to play every game, and he's just he doesn't give up on plays. He's always there, and he's always evolved in some part of the game, which is really nice to see.
Now he's a gritty, quick skater. He's been great. And this is a little off topic. Every time I think of Brassard, I think of Zuccarello. You remember how they would kill us with the Rangers?
Yep.
Anything you want to add to that, Nick?
Yeah, I mean, it was Bastion that hit Giroux right in the game against Seattle. That cheap shot, and then we went after him at the end of the game to set the tone on
it was
basically the season, right? Yeah. And was that Sealer there too?
No, it was Nick
Sealer
Thompson.
And Bastion.
That was Thompson.
Oh yeah, it was Thompson.
Thompson.
Right. So Thompson goes in there and says, this isn't going to happen, and it's not going to happen again with the Seattle Kraken, and it's not going to happen with anybody else in the league because the Flyers are a different team, and we're going to protect our players, and we're going to go to bat. For two guys like Tom Wilson and the rest of the league, if you feel fit to come in and do some things that you're not going to do, cheap shots, whatever the case may be, but we're going to match your physicality. So it's a good thing, and I hope I'm confident that we'll continue to see it as the season continues to roll out.
I love that, dude. I love it when when you're froggy, jump. And I love the fact that they do that. If the players want to get at us, we have the players that are going to do that. We actually lost it with this guy when he left because he did it all the time. Yeah. Simmons did it all the time. And you know what? Now we have a team that's going to back each other up, and we missed that immensely the last year and a half.
No, I that's what we were screaming for it. We have to find toughness, and we haven't seen it yet, but Patrick Brown is scrappy also. So
right,
he's another guy that'll stand up for his teammates. All right, so we have a big game tonight. Part of this show was to do our weekly podcast, and part of it was as a pregame show. So let's address the puck points for the Maple Leafs game. So I have as a puck point to maintain the intensity against the Capitals. Do we see any way, shape, or form that they don't come out with intensity in this game? Nicky, nuts.
I I don't know, because every game they've been kind of slow start, and then they pick it up in the second, or they have a slow start to start the second. They always have that one period where they come out slow, and I would love to eliminate that in this game, and I think they got to eliminate that in this game to be effective. They got to play all three periods as intense as the start or the finish.
Nick Tassi, do you see any issues with them losing their intensity?
It's hard to say. I mean, Toronto is so offensively skilled. I mean, they got some of the best forwards in the league. The most, and I think we've noted that 4 or 5 of them are the ones that are leading. The top 5 in the team in scoring: Matthews, Marner, Tavares, Nylander, and Riley. And those guys are really good, and they play really well together. And they've been together long enough that their chemistry is really starting to work. So I'll be honest with you, Dan. I think you might see a little bit of a slow start tonight. We might be on our heels, chasing the puck a little bit, because I don't think they've seen this level of speed. Well, they did with Edmonton.
And Florida.
So, if they approach this game like they approached the Oilers game, it's possible that we could see a faster start. But I don't know, man. What do you think? I'm 50-50 right now.
No, I think first of all, I believe that Toronto's on a bit of an uptick. They lost their last game to the Kings, I believe 5-1, but they won 3 in a row prior to that. They had a slow start, and I think they won 7 out of 10 at one point. So they've had a little bit of resurgence to their season. Matthews, I think missed a few games with injury.
Right.
Like you said, their big 5 of Marner, Tavares, Matthews, Nylander, and Riley. They take up the entire payroll, and they're the top 5 scorers on a team.
Right.
So I think the Flyers realize this is a damn good hockey club. So I'm hoping they come out with intensity. And it brings us to our next puck point. Do we expect Hart to continue the goaltending play that we've been having and continue to shine? Nick, we'll start with Nick the Scout on this one.
I do. I mean, he's got the confidence. You can see it, regardless if it's been 2 games or 10 games so far, or somewhere in between, which it is. He looks confident. He looks sharp. He looks focused. Perhaps whatever was in his head to reduce that confidence level for most or all of last year seems to be rectified. So I absolutely do think it's going to continue. Now, does that translate into shutouts or, 1 goal and 2 goal games? Possibly, or maybe not. If Toronto puts four points or 4 goals up on us tonight, or 5 goals on us tonight, and they're bad goals, or there was collapses in the defensive zone that caused those kinds of things, and it really wasn't his fault. It'd be interesting to see. But yeah, I mean, I think, in my opinion, I think this game could be a 4-3 kind of a game, a 3-2 kind of a game. I don't think either team has the ability to blow either team out. So yes, but to answer your question, for sure, I think the confidence level is definitely there. You could see it. I mean, it's obvious. I mean, you don't even have to look for it. I mean, it just exudes, his play right now. And I expect that to continue.
And Nicky Nuts, again, it's funny. Like, I came up with this idea of puck points for success. It's kind of like when you watch any show, keys to success, what the Phillies have to do to win the game tonight. Throw strikes, get to the bullpen early, or the other team. Football, be successful in the red zone, get to the quarterback. A lot of these are cliched, obvious points, right, Nicky Nuts? But with this game in particular, with the guys I mentioned, Tavares, obviously Matthews, Nylander, all these guys, Marner, we got to stay out of the penalty box.
Yeah, absolutely. Without a doubt. That's definitely number 1 on my book, is that penalty box, because that can change the entire complexity of this game. Hart absolutely has to come play. And I think, going back to the goalies, I think they both are pushing each other to be the best goalie they can be, which is great competition. And that's always a great motivator, especially when you see them both produce. They're pushing each other to get better, and it's better that they don't curl up and go into a hole. I want them to compete. I want them to come out and beat each other. At the end of the day, I think tonight's game is really all about the penalty box and special teams.
No, you have to. That's another point I had. You have to have strong special teams in general, right? I mean, I'd like to see us put some pucks in the net on our
Yes.
power play, and obviously limit the dumb penalties. I think we had 3 penalties against the Capitals. 2 were stupid. One, Lawton slashed the stick out of Ovechkin's hand, which was nonsense. I believe was it Sealer punched someone on the Washington bench?
Yeah.
Nonsense. The only penalty that was legit was that when Ovechkin was trying to shove the puck through Jones's
Grab the
pad,
stick.
where we grabbed the stick. That was a smart penalty. So, but we can't have stupid penalties. Nick mentioned earlier traffic in front of the net. That's always important. And my final puck point is I want us to maintain physical play. I don't want us to have physical play only when we're playing physical teams. I want us to set the tone. Maintain physical play. Nikki T, I saw you react in a way that you want to elaborate.
Yeah. Well, because this is the kind of game where you might not see too much physical play because they don't have an enforcer that you're reacting to protecting your players or whatever the case may be. This is the type of game where you need physical play to shut down a very, very potent offense. This is the type of game when, Marner's getting a pass from Matthews or whatever, they're along the boards that you're darting right at him, skating at full speed and putting their head on a swivel and not letting them just skate up and down the ice at will. So that's the kind of physical play you're going to need against Toronto tonight. And I'm hoping we see that because I'm a little skeptical that we won't, but we'll see.
Yeah. All right. So those were my puck points. And honestly, I'm embarrassed to say, ladies and gentlemen, I was going to put this up as a graphic, but I have another graphic that's all ready to go, and I can't share screens concurrently. It's hard to explain. So I just verbalize it versus showing the graphics. And if you're listening to this on Apple Podcast, you can't see it anyway.
Exactly.
So before we get on to my favorite segment and many of our viewers' favorite segment, here's our next 3 games. Tonight against Toronto, at Carolina Friday, and are we at Dallas, Nick?
At Dallas.
Yeah. So I always like to project points, and I'll start with you, Mr. Nuts. Tonight, Friday against Carolina, and then at Dallas. 6 points on the board. What are we looking at?
To be honest with you, I really think we're only going to get 2 points out of this.
So you have 1 win and 2 losses you're looking at?
Yeah, I think
or
absolutely. I think we lose. I think we lose to Carolina, and I think we're going to lose or even make it to the OT of Dallas. And I think Toronto we can win.
I'm going to go. I'm going to go 4 out of 5 points. I think they beat Toronto and Dallas.
Really?
Yeah, Dallas isn't setting the world on fire. Your thoughts, the scout?
I think they're going to beat Toronto, and I think they're going to beat Carolina. Dan, when we talk about the sports psychology of getting up for games and playing to the level of the competition, I think you're going to see that with Carolina. I think
and then a letdown against the Stars.
And a letdown against Dallas. Yep. All right. I mean, if you're continuing to read the rest of the chapters in the Flyers 2021 season, that seems to be the way it's going to play out. So.
All right. Yeah, but again, if you would have told us this 3-game stretch, we're going to get 4 of 6 points,
right?
Maybe even 5. Maybe we take someone to overtime and lose it that way. I guess we would take 5 out of 6 points. I would take 4 out of 6 in this stretch. All right. So we don't have Vance, so I'm going to have to ask somebody to step up to the table as I prepare one of the most important questions in all of sports. I'm going to go with, actually, before we do this, before we ask this important question, Nick, tell us who this segment is sponsored by, please.
Sponsored by Fuse Barbershop in Newtown, in PA. You check them out. You go there. You tell them that you're a fan of the Flyer and Ice, and they will give you a 20% discount on your first cut. They are awesome. They got awesome murals on the wall, rock stars. They got guitars that are signed. It's a really cool spot. If you haven't checked them out, go check them out and tell them Flyer and Ice, and they will take care of you.
And I will tell you, these three good-looking men that you see, we all go there. We all go there to get our hair cut.
No, Dan. Oh, God. We just lost all the customers.
All right. Well, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. No, we all look good. Come on, knock it off.
One of three, maybe.
We're good-looking men. We're good-looking men. So I'm going to ask you,
All right.
Nikki T,
Mm-hmm.
what time is it?
It is time for the penalty box.
I did it again. I left the previous question up, and it blocked the penalty box graphics partially. I'm really mad at myself. But anyway, so ladies and gentlemen, it is not easy. It is not easy coming up week after week with really cool penalty box themes. And if you only knew the mind of Dan Green, you'd probably be scared and move far away from me. But I was just sitting there one day, and all of a sudden, Darryl Sittler popped up in my head. And what does Darryl Sittler have in common? Nick the Scout. What
He
pops in
played
your head?
for the Maple Leafs and the Flyers?
Yes. So that was my theme. I randomly thought, and I'm telling you,
I don't remember him playing for Toronto, but I had to. It just.
Well, you
I
don't remember
vaguely
Darryl?
do, but
You don't remember Darryl Sittler playing for Toronto?
I don't.
Come on, that was. Oh, I certainly.
Obviously, I remember him as a Flyer. So
All right. Well, anyway, so here's my theme for the penalty box. It is played for Flyers and Leafs. And I don't know if you knew this, Nicky Nuts, but did you know Bernie Perrant played for the Toronto Maple Leafs?
No, I did not.
Did you know he played for the Flyers?
No.
Just kidding.
No.
So you start with that. You start with that. Bernie Perrant played for the Leafs, and he played with his childhood legend or childhood idol, Jacques Plante. And talk about a mentor. Jacques Plante got Bernie Perrant's game and confidence going. And then, as Nick Tosti referenced, we got Darryl Sittler in a steal. For a player named Mike Costello, or not Mike Costello, but the last Mike Costello I went to high school with. But there was, I can't think of his first name, but the last name was Costello. We traded him for Darryl Sittler. And Sittler, a lot of times the Flyers get razzed for bringing in Howard-Chuck and Coffey and Van Vriesbroek, guys that were at the end of their career and really didn't contribute much. But Darryl Sittler had a 40-goal season with us. So he was really a solid player for us. And I remember like yesterday, Bobby Clark retired after the 83-84 season, was immediately named the general manager. Darryl Sittler, I remember being interviewed, I think by Yuki Washington, thought he was going to be the next captain of the Flyers. And the very first trade Bobby Clark made was trading Darryl Sittler to the Detroit Red Wings for Murray Craven and Joe Patterson. It was actually a brilliant trade, but it broke Darryl Sittler's heart. But Darryl Sittler's a Hall of Famer that played for the Leafs most of his career and the Flyers. And then, of course, you got Eric Lindros. Eric Lindros obviously made his bones with us, and then unfortunately, because of his post-concussion issues, kind of became a journeyman player after he was with us. And one of the stops he made was with his favorite childhood team, as he's an Ontario native, the Toronto Maple Leafs. So there's another one. And I don't know if a lot of people realize Michael Renberg, part of the Legion of Doom. A lot of people remember him playing for Tampa, but not a lot of people remember him playing for Toronto. So Michael Renberg also played for Toronto. And one of my favorite players, again, Vance and I discussed, so I'm going to put together an episode of players we let get away too soon. And one of them is Dmitry Yushkevich. Dmitry Yushkevich, to me, was a very solid defenseman, and he became a terrific defenseman with Toronto. And then we got him back again for a cup of coffee, sort of at the end of his career. He played for the Flyers once again. But Dmitry Yushkevich, before we move on, Nick the scout, tell me your thoughts on Dmitry Yushkevich, because I saw the positive side with that comment as well.
From what I remember, I mean, he was just a team guy. I mean, he was very fundamentally sound. He was a power play guy for us too, right? I mean, he was.
He had a nice shot, and he played rugged. He played rugged for a guy that wasn't so big.
Yeah, little guy. But solid defenseman, and I think you're right. We have a tendency to kind of let young players go when we think maybe they're in their prime and they're on the downswing, and that definitely wasn't the case. And we wound up getting him back when he was maybe a little bit past his prime, but a household name for the Flyers. I mean, if you hear the name Dmitry Yushkevich, I mean, any Flyers fan could tell you, a little bit about him and when he played here. So, and watched them as a fan.
Now, I don't mean to put you on the spot, Nicky Nuts. If you did your homework, this wouldn't be putting you on the spot now. Do you know who the next player is on my list or my graphic?
No, I don't.
All right, then I'm going to have to defer to Nick the scout. Do you know who that player is?
I don't.
You guys.
I'm looking at. I can't see the numbers. What's the number? 19?
15
on the Flyers sweater.
15.
Oh, it's 15. 15. I'm not sure, Dan.
All right. He scored a really important overtime playoff goal. I think his last year with the Flyers. I believe he was part of the Chris Pronger trade and wound up
just St. Louis.
After going to Anaheim, he went to
Toronto.
Oh, Anaheim.
No,
right.
No. All right. It's Joffrey Lupul, ladies and gentlemen. It's Joffrey Lupul.
Yeah.
So Joffrey Lupul was a solid. Would you say a third wing, a third line winger, a solid third line winger?
Third or fourth. I mean, yeah. I mean, he wasn't a top six guy.
No. Well,
he was on the power play.
He had that European. He had that European kind of a style. I mean, it was.
But he wasn't European. That's the thing. He's right. A poorly spelled name.
He had that. He had that get up and go, and good speed.
Yeah.
I mean, I think he was a good gritty guy to be having on the third, fourth line.
Yeah, he wasn't necessarily a legendary
a
player that deserved to be on the list, but the hamster wheel brought him up in my head.
Yeah.
And then I think Nicky Nuts, you know who the next guy is, right? I'm circling with the mouse now.
Yeah, I don't see that.
You don't see it?
I don't see your mouse. I don't know where we're at.
How about the third guy bottom right, from left to right? The third guy.
JVR.
Correct. So JVR obviously was a second overall pick for us in the entire draft. The year we lost a coin flip, and they had to settle for him over Patrick Kane. Unfortunately, went to Chicago. So we had JVR. He had a tremendous playoff run when we went to the Cup, but he never lived up to the hype during the regular season. Would you agree, gentlemen? And I think we kind of gave up on him, and he put up, I think pretty solid years with Toronto, number 25 there with Toronto. I think he had multiple 30-goal seasons with them, enough to say, you know what, maybe he's a different JVR, and we signed him to a monster contract, and he had a solid year for us last year. This year he's been playing well, but the points aren't showing, if that makes sense. So both him and Yushkevich were Flyers that had two tours with the Flyers, with being with Toronto in between. And I'm going to leave the last guy for you, Nicky Nuts. I know he's one of your all-time favorites. He's everyone's all-time favorite. Who do we got?
On my wall.
Yeah.
Simmons.
Yeah. So Wayne Simmons currently, we'll see him tonight for the Toronto Maple Leafs after he's bounced around with the Predators, Who was it? Did he have a pit stop with the Capitals too?
No,
No.
I don't
Where
think
did
so.
where did he played? Who did he play with before going to Toronto? In between Nashville and Toronto. Boston, maybe. I'm trying to think.
Nah, it wasn't Boston.
Let me see. I'm gonna.
It was a Southern.
No, well, he played
was-
with the Predators. So, ladies and gentlemen, we're being a little unprofessional. We're googling on the spot here because
Everybody does it.
generally, I'm a savant with my knowledge right off the top of my head. Um, Wayne Simmons stats. Let's pull him up. All right.
Not the Devils, Dan.
Aha!
And then-
See?
Yeah. Yep.
See, I told you he played on the.
Man, I don't even remember.
I knew he played in our division. I said
Yeah.
Capitals but yeah, so I knew he played in our division again.
And Buffalo for a cup of coffee.
Yes. So he's bounced around, and now I think he actually signed a contract with Toronto. So, ladies and gentlemen, that was my little cute penalty box segment. I wanted to show Fly, and I guarantee you, there's countless more. We could.
Wasn't Mike Ricci on the? Didn't he play for Toronto at one point?
I just remember Ricci with the Avs after us. I don't know. Could be. Could be.
Oh, he went to no, he went to.
The
He was
Islanders?
part of the Lindros trade. Wasn't
Yeah,
he
he went to the Nordiques in the end.
Quebec.
No,
Yeah.
Quebec.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm sure there's countless others that we could have thought of that just didn't pop in my head. But those were guys that Dan Green's hamster wheel threw up on the graphics. Perrant, Sittler, Lindros, Renberg, Yuskevich, Lupul, JVR, and Wayne Simmons played for both the Flyers and the Leafs. Ladies and gentlemen, as always, I want to thank you for joining our show. I am Dan Green. Below me is Nick the Scout Tosti. To the screen's right is Nicky Nuts Crisco. We are Flyer and Ice. We are brought to you by the Heat Ratio Sports Network. Again, check us out on YouTube. Subscribe. Tell your friends and tell them the drive home on Apple Pod is the way to go. Check out Fuse Barbershop. And again, cut the cord. Go to nvstreams702.com. And it's time to switch. I have them. I'm watching hockey everywhere at any time. It's amazing.
It's awesome.
NV Streams. Check them out.
Awesome.
And we're not going to do a post-game show tonight. So let's cross our fingers and hope the Flyers have a good night.
Flyers.
And as
Let's go,
always,
baby.
Let's go.
Good night, good hockey. And if you want to see something fun, watch the Nicky live show on Facebook. Nick,
Yeah, baby.
Share that with the people.
Welcome to the Nick Show, baby.
Find him on Facebook. Welcome to the Nick Show.
You go
Good
to
night.
the Flyer and Ice group. You like the Flyer and Ice group. You'll see it. I post it every now and then, and you'll see what it's all about. And then you can tune in if you feel like it.
And you'll see why I found him and why he's called Nicky
Nuts.
So on behalf of the crew, good night, good hockey, and maybe we'll catch you after the Carolina Hurricanes game.
Yeah.
Take care, everybody.
Later.